Welcome friends to Farm Fresh Designs 59. In today's video, I've got a little shabby chic and a little bit of glam, and all of the pieces turned out beautifully. So let's get started. This first piece is one of those wood boxes that I've been getting at Walmart in the craft section. And they come 3 together, and they're boxes that are graduating sizes. Now, when you get it, they're going to have 2 holes on either end that have like a rope handle on it. So I don't want to use that. So I take the rope handle off, which then leaves 2 holes in it. So what I do is I cut 2 pieces of wood. One piece will fit right on top of the shadow box. And if you'll notice down at the bottom, it's got those 2 holes in it. And I go back and fill those in with wood filler before I paint over it. Now on the bottom of the shadow box, I put a piece of wood on the inside of the box. So once it gets all painted, you can't even tell that there's that extra piece of wood. Now I paint it with Rust-Oleum chiffon cream, and I paint the entire outside of the box. And then on the inside of the box, I'm only going to be painting the 4 sides. Now I'm going to be adding a piece of decoupage paper to it. And best practice says that you should always paint the back side of something either white or cream before you add decoupage paper. And the reason behind that is because it just helps the colors in that decoupage paper to really pop. If you add something to that's a stained surface or something that's painted a color, then those colors in the decoupage paper will just not show up as well. But because this box is already somewhat white, I just don't feel like I need to spend that time painting the inside white. Now, this decoupage paper comes from Reba Rose Creations, and I've had this for quite some time, and I've been saving it because this is one of those decoupage papers that I don't really want to kind of tear it and use it for different projects because I like it as is. So I've been saving it for just the right thing. Now, this is a water pen that I've used for a long time, and I just run it along the edges, and it makes that decoupage paper, and some people call it rice paper. It just makes it soft, and it makes it real easy to tear off that white edge. You can also just take a regular paintbrush and just dip it in some water, and you can do it like that. Now, this particular decoupage paper, I've had it for quite some time, and I looked for it today, and I'm not seeing it either on Etsy or her website, but on her website, you're going to see a lot of other decoupage paper that has some perfume bottles in it. Now, one of the things I don't show you is when I put that decoupage paper down to the bottom of that tray or box, I put it with Pentart decoupage glue and varnish. Now, this trim mold is called Tassel Fringe, and it's made by Redesign with Prima, and I get all of my Redesign with Micah Daughters, and so I'll share that link below. Now, the reason I'm using hot glue on this particular mold is I'm going to be putting this around the edge of the box to make it decorative. Now, if I used air dry clay, it's not going to work because it will eventually break off when it gets hard. And I don't want that to happen because this trim mold is just a little bit wider than the edge. I could use resin, but that's just a little bit more expensive. And so if I use hot glue, then it's going to be a permanent hold. And what I like about it is when you see where I have to, put more than one piece on the side, after it gets all glued, then I just take my hot glue gun and I just kind of barely touch it where those 2 pieces connect, and it melts together, and then you can't even really tell that there was 2 different pieces. So I painted it all white, and now what I'm doing is I'm using gold gilding wax to kind of make the detail on that trim pop. Now, I just kind of noticed this, but my fingernails are painted, and you're not normally going to see them painted, but we had a funeral to go to and I had painted my fingernails just so that people wouldn't see how awful my fingernails usually look from all the paint. But you're not going to see that very often for me, but I wanted to have something special for that. Now, this mold is made by Zuri, and it's just called Perfume bottles. And I'm going to be using resin to make these molds. And if you've never used resin, there's two parts to it. Part A is a clear liquid that you pour in first. Part B is kind of a yellow liquid, and then once you put that in, you need to be ready to stir it pretty quick. And then right after that, you need to be ready to pour it into your molds. You don't need to line your molds with anything. You just pour it straight in. And if you use the amazing casting resin, it sets up in 10 minutes and it comes out white, and then it's going to be permanent. Now, I went on and made all three pieces, but I'm only going to be using the middle one and the one that I'm painting right now. Now, even though they come out white, I still go and I paint them because I'm going to be using some gold gilding wax on it, and it just seems to go on better and stick better to something that's already been painted. Now, there's a lot of detail on these perfume bottles. And that's why I'm using gold gilding wax, because I want to make sure those details really pop out. Now, I do go and I paint the back of them later because these particular molds are going to be standing up. And even though that this is going to be something that I keep at my house, if somebody was to walk in and see it, I want the back side to look like it's also got that white paint on it that I have on the front. But I'm not going to use the gold gilding wax on the back because it's just flat and there's no detail to it. And the one I'm painting right now, I'm not going to use it in this particular video. I'll just put that in my stash. But the reason I'm not using this one is because this one is kind of rounded off on the bottom, and I need the two molds that I'm going to use to be like straight across down at the bottom. But I've always loved antique perfume bottles. So when I saw this mold, I knew I just had to have it. And then it also goes along with that decoupage paper. And on that decoupage paper, there's a dress form, and then there's some antique perfume bottles. And I started sewing when I was 8. So I've always loved dress forms, and I've always collected like vintage perfume bottles. And the one that I'm putting the gold gilding wax on right now, that's actually my favorite style that I've always looked for. And in the final reveal of this particular project, I'm actually adding the one that is the real perfume bottle that I've had for quite some time that is in this particular style. But this is something that I've really always liked. And I can't say that I have this experience of having a grandmother or my mom using these kind of vintage perfume bottles, but I've always just thought they were so pretty. So I do want to let you know, though, that this was supposed to be a longer video, and today is Friday, and I could not get that video to upload it all, and I tried for many hours, and I couldn't get it to work. So this is a video that just has 3 projects in it, and if this works, then I will add the other 3 projects in another video. Now, these particular little blocks of wood, they're cubes that I get at the Dollar Tree, and I glued 2 together, and then I glued another one right on top of that. And after that's set up, then I'm gluing it to the back side of that mold because it's going to stand up in that shadow box. Now, I make sure that I let it set really good before I even try to add it to that box. But isn't this so pretty? And this dress form is just a little plastic one that my granddaughter uses to, put her Barbie doll clothes on. And that perfume bottle in the middle is actually my own. And it's probably my favorite one of all of my antique perfume bottles. But I think it turned out really pretty. And then I've got a lot of little accessories sitting around it. But what do you think? And do you like antique perfume bottles? Or do you have maybe some that was maybe your grandmother's or your aunt's or your mom's? But I think they're just really beautiful. And I like all of that vintage like jewelry and shabby chic. I just think it's so pretty. Now, my next project is going to just be a little cosmetic bag, kind of to go along with this theme. And I get them at Hobby Lobby, and they're very inexpensive. And this is just a transfer that I got from Redesign with Prima, and it's called In the Meadow. And it has the same colors as that decoupage paper. So when you put the transfer down, you just use the little transfer tool, and you just rub it on. And when you're pulling that plastic backing up, if it kind of grabs a little bit, just lay it back down and, keep rubbing on it until, it all comes up. Now, there was just a little bit extra on the side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that plastic background sheeting and I'm just going to rub it all over it, and that's called burnishing it. And then I add some stamps to it. And this is a retired stamp set called Icy Paris, and it's made by Redesign with Prima, if you've got it. Now, this particular stamp is the one, it just says Paris, and I'm going to put that down at the bottom left-hand corner. And I believe I'm using navy IOD ink on it. And when I add that ink to it, I always like to go all around the edge, just in case some of that ink gets on that little thin mount. I don't want to, get it to transfer onto that cosmetic bag and, smear that design. So I always go all around the edges with a baby wipe. And my thin mount's getting kind of dirty, and I probably just need to chunk this one and start off with another one because it's got a lot of stains on it at this point. And that's another stamp in that little stamp set, and it's just script, and I put that up at the top. Now, this is just some ribbon that I kind of wound around my fingers several times and tied it in the middle, and I'm just gluing it on with Titebond Thick and Quick right up there on the right-hand corner. But because it's got that little knot in it, these are some little clips that I get at the Dollar Tree, and I just kind of clip it on until that glue sets up. And then I just put a button right in the middle. Now, before I show you that, I'm going to show you one more little piece. And this is a mold that I got recently, and it's called Fashion Icons. And it's got a lot of different little faces to it. And the reason I got it was because, well, number one, it was on sale. And number two is because I've always, really loved fashion, just because I, have always sewn and made my clothes for many years growing up. And I go ahead and make enough resin to kind of make several different ones, because the ones that I don't use, I'll kind of put them back and I'll use later. Now, the funny part of this mold is, for some reason, there's some little molds of some hands, which I thought was a little bit different. So I'm going to kind of put those off to the side because I didn't really know what I was going to use them for, but I thought it would be interesting to see how they turned out. And I think they're really pretty. And so I'm going to lay them all out for you, and then I'm going to lay them on the back side of this mold so that you can see what they look like. And then you'll see in just a minute, I took a block of wood and I painted it with Dixie Belle in the navy. And then I took a picture frame that I had already molded up quite some time ago, and I add that to it, which I painted it white. And then the little face that I'm going to be putting in the middle, I painted it white. And it's just a really simple little piece. It's just a little shelf setter that can kind of go along with this little vignette. But aren't those so pretty? But there's those two pieces together. I think they turned out real pretty. So what do you think? Now for this transfer, I'm going to spray it with a couple coats of sealer. And I don't usually sell these. I usually give these away to friends. But this isn't something that you can wash later on, because if you do, that transfer is going to come off. So friends, we are at the end of the video, and here are the 3 pieces from the video today. So in the comments below, let me know which one was your favorite. Now, I love all 3 pieces, but by far the shadow box is my favorite. And also in the comments below, let me know, are you someone that likes dress forms, or do you like vintage perfume bottles? And did you have someone maybe your grandmother or your aunt that actually use these antique perfume bottles. But thank you so much for all of your support. I appreciate you more than I could ever let you know. Y'all are just the best viewers, and I appreciate all of your sweet comments. So if you like the video today, make sure to hit the thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, we would love for you to be part of our family here. And make sure to turn on the notifications button so YouTube will let you know when I upload my next video.